I have been a application specialist with MicroCAD now for 5 years, going into 6 very soon. Time flies when one is having fun. I have been a Revit evangelist, and I have been working with the software for almost 20 years, since 2005. In my career, at some point, I was a BIM/CAD manager in a firm. So my run around with Revit has been quite wide-reaching. Today we're going to talk about Revit collaboration, and I'm going to expand it a little bit further beyond Revit into an offering that is now included within our your AEC packages, which is called Autodesk Docs, which is very closely related to Revit collaboration. So, and I'm going to try to go between my PowerPoint presentation and a little bit of the website. So, Autodesk Docs, and what is actually Autodesk Docs and where you find it. And basically the reason why I wanted to talk not just about Revit collaboration, but about the whole offering of Docs is because when you're sharing, or when you're in a project and with the stakeholders of the project, don't want us to limit ourselves just to the Revit files. I want us to understand that through the Autodesk offerings, there is a holder of all the documents that are going to support my project throughout the whole life cycle of the project, and that this Docs offering is a common data environment which will centralize all the project information throughout the whole life cycle of the project, and for all the stakeholders, Revit users, as well as all the other files that I need. Where do I find it? And let me start right away jumping into the software itself. Sorry, not there. Let me open this up. Awesome. So if you go to your Autodesk website and you log in as you usually do, when you go on your profile picture and you go to all your products and services, and I apologize that it looks sometimes that I'm looking off here to the side, but that is where the screen is that I'm sharing. So if I scroll down here quite a bunch, because I have access to a lot of stuff, you will find that within the AEC collection, you have Docs for the AEC collection. Now, if you don't have the AEC collection, you can still buy a separate license of Docs to get into the offering from here. Okay, so going back to my PowerPoint. So that is what I'm pointing out here, that you have Docs, and it says that Docs is a centralized document management solution that acts as a single source of truth across the project lifecycle for all project teams. So it's, I have worked with SharePoint, I have worked with Dropbox to keep all the files of a project in a centralized location where people that are located in different geographic locations can access those files. And then docs came into Autodesk, and it was, from my point of view, like the hottest potato in the bunch. Absolutely loved the offering because it replaces all those other file holders, and it allows me to share files and control the permission level per user, per files, per project, across the board. So really cool, really, really cool offering, besides of other offerings that it has. So once you come into Docs, you can start an account, and then you will be the account administrator. And as the account administrator, you are going to be able to set up a project for all your users. And that happens through the create project location that you find once you start a project. And again, because I want to do this presentation, do it in such a way that you can see what is happening, right? Once you are in your account. And the accounts, Autodesk has different geographic locations, so you have to be in the correct geographic location. And then somebody in your organization will create the company's hub, which is what I'm pointing at up here, here at the top of my screen, right? So you can create a new project through this location here. Once you get in there, you can have also project templates. And let me go back to PowerPoint. Okay, and then once you create a new project, you can add members and you can assign product access through the hub. So when you add members, there is something that is very neatly controlled, and it is the feature of the roles, right? And when you create a role, you create levels of access for specific roles. Okay, so then when you add a member to your project, you assign it a role, and that will determine the level of access that he will have by the role. Okay, so that is how that is handled. So when you start as the account administrator, you should invite at least another account administrator from the member tool. And I mean, thinking that you already have members, that you have roles, right? And then you can define the order of your setups. I myself used to, first of all, create the project and then start adding people for it. So, and it is written here that you could set up your roles, companies, and project templates before creating a project. And then when you create the project, especially if you have a template, then you can have similar file structure. So just a little bit of a look through about the roles that you can have. If I come here to roles, they're listed. So a project member has a specific level of access versus a BIM manager. BIM manager is going to be a project administrator, right? A commercial manager or an executive will be a member, and you can change the role, and then you can define all your roles through the roles tab. And then by the members, you can define what their access level is depending on the role they have. Okay, their access level is going to be defined as a project member. Then you can also access here to the offering what of the offerings they can access. So back to PowerPoint. So that is how you start your account administration. This is an explanation a little bit deeper into what the roles are, and they streamline your workflows, your permissions, your access, so you can make a role for a submittal manager, and then in the submittals tool assign the permissions. And so they can have permission to create projects and to upload and download files. They can have permission just to view files so that they don't mess with your stuff. So a ton of control in that sense, which is, from my point of view, bigger control than what you have through the other offerings where you have a common location to place your models or to place all your files. And the advantage of the ACC is that you can also upload CAD files and Revit models. Okay, so once you have a bunch of projects created, they will appear in the project list. And per project, you will have different levels of interaction. So again, to our website. So for this specific project, let me go to projects just to show you all the projects that we have. We have 147 projects. This is the MicroCAD location. And then if I open up a project, at the files level, and this is where you would upload different types of files. And if I go and, the list of the, sorry, my cursor just went crazy there for a moment. The supported files is endless, right? Because it supports from Rhino files, 3ds Max, CATIA, Unix, Shape Manager, Format, Fusion, Microsoft Word, Excel, all your Navisworks files, NVCs and MVDs, object files, PNGs, PDFs. I mean, the list is endless, the files that are supported. So huge advantage in that sense. And there again, may I mention, come back to the fact that you have a complete control of the interaction of every team member to those files. And to me, that is a huge point for this offering. Okay, so that is the files. And then, as I said, you have permission settings, right? And then you can define what level of permission the people are going to have to the project files, or to as a general folder. And notice that you could add subfolders and organize your projects reflecting your organization of the folder organization of your company. right? And then you can create a template for that folder organization. And then once you create a template, then you can reproduce those folders and all that setup for future projects. Notice also that you can upload a file, you can download the source file. So just as file management, you're starting to see the awesomeness of this offering, right? You can view files on the web. And so even if you're not a Revit user and you don't have a Revit license, you just need a Docs license, you can see, and let me show you that on this project here. Right, it gives you this location where you can see a project that we're developing. You can interact with this project. You can add markups. I mean, not on the project itself. You can add markups to a PDF file. You can navigate through the project. You could measure elements on the project. You could section and do a section analysis of a project. And this is a Revit model. You don't need a Revit license, okay? Huge advantage. Okay, and that you can do over the web. So here I have a screenshot of what I just showed you live. And then, as I mentioned, you can section 3D models and investigate them further. Now, for PDFs, PNGs, JPEGs, or JPEG files, and 2D elements that are contained in DWG files or RVT files, you can add markups. And you can create issues and assign issues to specific people. So as I was saying, huge advantage, right? And then if that included to the fact, and let me just go one slide back. Actually, no, let me go back here to this location and close out of here. This project is a Revit project. It has been, it's Workshed, it's a cloud model. People that have a BIM Collaborate Pro license and that have been invited to the project will be able to access their project through Revit and work in the same project at the same time, right? And geographic locations of all your collaborators becomes a story of the past. As my personal experience, I have been working with cloud shared models since 2015, 2016 or so. We were, and that is before I rejoined the reseller side of things, we were spread all over the world. And this location with these cloud workshop projects with a BIM Collaborate license was our Hail Mary solution, okay? As you can see here, you can define, you can move it, you can rename your file, you can check your version history. Each time the file gets published, it gets a version. If I come here to this ellipsis button, I can choose permission settings per user. Right, so we all have managed permissions because we are project administrators. So the permissions are given per row. And so, as I said, awesome offering, awesome way of keeping all your files in one location, awesome way to stop the fragmentation of information, one source of truth, not just for your Revit files, but for all your files that are connected to a project. And with that said, I am going to open up the floor for questions.
Thank you, Sandra, for this wonderful presentation. Let me go over the questions. Okay, so our first question is, could you give us your take on the difference between Revit server and work sharing?
Okay. The Revit server is a offering that Autodesk has had for the longest time. It connects offices that are on different geographic networks but share a common network, so you need to have a common network. And from my point of view, it tends to be sometimes a little bit problematic because of that common network. And we all know that handling networks will require the assistance of an IT person. Whereas if I have cloud workshirt models, I will need to have my people with a BIM Collaborate Pro license for them to be able to access the model through Revit and be able to work on the same Revit model. But I save myself the salary of a IT person. Very easy setup, very easy to understand and to give access to my models. And then it allows me to use added tools and link the models through that are on the ACC, and it gives me a lot of added functionality. Plus the advantage that I'm not limited just to Revit files. I can expand that one source of truth location for my files to all the files that are used in a project. Okay, I hope this answered your question.
Thank you. Let me go over the second question. How can we improve performance in cloud models?
Awesome question. Awesome question. Best practices, right? It's always a matter of best practices. So if you are working on a model that is through BIM Collaborate Pro, on a model that is placed on the cloud, please synchronize to the cloud frequently. Don't work for 4 or 5 hours and then go and sync. That might get you into trouble. My second best advice is manage your work sets efficiently. Create them logically, and then make sure that you have open the work sets that you really need. If your model is getting sluggish, try and check what work sets you can turn off. The last thing is be careful with your families. Okay, I know that when we went into the 3D world of Revit and these 3D models, sometimes people over detail their families. And I always ask my clients, does the family need to carry all that amount of detail, or can I have a more simplistic family and then cover those details through either detail views or drafting views? Okay, just remember when you're creating families, and this is more Revit best practices, but it is included in this Revit collaboration subject that we're dealing with today. It is not SimCity. Okay, we are not creating a Barbie dollhouse. We're creating an active project. So if you're just doing a 2-story house, your families can be more detailed. If you're doing a 20-story building, your families you need to simplify your families. Okay? So I hope that also covered that question.
Thank you, Sandra. And as a reminder for everyone, if you want to learn any of these topics in detail, you can take a custom training with Sandra or someone else on our team. These are our phone numbers based on region, and you also have there down below my contact information. Or you can also use the button in the upper side that says request a quote. We also have there our products, services. And if you guys could help us with taking the survey, that really, really help us to improve these webinars for you. And yeah, I would like to thank everyone for attending, and hopefully we'll see you on our next webinar. Thank you, Sandra, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for attending my webinar today. Hope to see you soon. Bye now.
Bye-bye.